Hey guys, today we're talking about things only real knife guys will understand. Let's get into it. Now, before we get started, I want to show you guys my new Rockstead shelf that my buddy Patrick made me. He does incredible work. He makes custom shelves, and I'm gonna put his email down in the description if you guys want to get in contact with him and maybe get something custom made for yourself, or maybe you have some ideas of something you want made. He's the same guy who did my other knife shelf, and he also did my Neeves knives plaque. He does incredible work. He's an amazing craftsman, and I can't recommend him enough. And I gotta thank him for being so kind to me, so awesome to me, and such a good friend, and making me such amazing pieces. Now the first one, knife acoustics. Knife guys will understand this very well. Knife acoustic, what does that even mean? The sounds that knives make, for some reason, us knife guys just love the sounds of certain knives. We can literally not like a knife and would never buy it, but then we hear it and we're like, sold, take my money. Just from the sound of it, which sounds crazy. Like, why would you care about a knife sound? In many cases, it does kind of show the quality, like you can hear the way the lock engages, or in some cases it has nothing to do with that at all. It's just how unique it sounds, and you know, the vibrations and the tings and the this and the that. And some knives just sound absolutely amazing. I'm gonna show you guys just a couple examples. And of course, we love to fidget with our knives. Why do knife guys love Spyderco? What's the deal with Spyderco? Now, if you're a person in the community that doesn't like Spyderco, well, you're just not a knife guy. No, I'm just joking. You at least understand why knife guys, or why we love Spydercos, right? I used to hate them too. I used to think they were ugly, but after getting to experience them, try them, and then the more important part, the reason why a lot of us love Spyderco is because they use more steels than any other company. We all know there is bottom of the barrel, I don't even want this steel, all the way up to super premium, super steels, high wear resistant, crazy steels. So, and everything in between. Spyderco uses them all. Spyderco uses all steels, all different kinds of steels, and then the big thing, they heat treat them well. Because you can have a run-of-the-mill steel, name that steel, and it doesn't matter if it's not heat treated properly. Well, Spyderco heat treats them to their highest performance. They heat treat them optimally, and it makes it to where you can actually experience these steels the way they're supposed to be. Because a lot of companies use steels, and just because you got this steel from this company, that doesn't mean you're getting to experience that steel the way it's supposed to be. But Spyderco's does. So if you ever get a knife from Spyderco, you will know that it's heat treated well, and you're gonna get to experience a good heat treated steel. Now, another thing is, they're very solid knives. They're well built. They're USA, well, they're not all USA made. They have USA made knives, knives made in Taiwan, knives made in Japan, and then a little bit of Chinese. But the majority of them are made in Taiwan and the USA. Now, they have incredible build quality. They do have great fit and finish. Now, just because you had some problems with the Spyderco here and there, it's okay. It happens to all companies, but overall, they're very ergonomic. Their blade shapes are extremely useful. And that's the thing with Spydercos, is that when you actually start using them, you realize, man, this ugly knife just works so good. And then you get to experience how well the steel performs, and it's like, man, you start falling in love with them. Now, like I said, if you don't like Spyderco, that's okay. I didn't like them either at one point, but a lot of us do. And knife guys understand why other knife guys love Spyderco. Integrals. Why do knife guys love integrals? What's the big deal with integrals? Well, an integral is when the handle of the knife is made out of one solid piece of material, in many cases, titanium. Now, we'll get into titanium here in a second, but integrals are also made out of other materials, but the reason why we love them is, one, it's a little bit harder to do. It's harder for companies to make a knife handle out of one solid piece and make all the machining and do everything out of one piece, because most knives are at least 2 pieces, if not 3, and they're a sandwich construction. But integrals are just one solid piece, and then you don't have to worry about your hardware loosening up. You don't have to worry about the knife starting to get blade play, because the scales are just the scales and they don't come apart. You're less likely for your pivot to back out. You're less likely for it to get blade play and all these things, because there's no parts that are removed from each other. So that's a few reasons why. Now they can be quite expensive in some cases because they're so difficult to machine. So that's another little thing, you know, us knife guys, sometimes we like things just because, and it looks clean too. It's a very clean look. There's no backspacer. If you don't like integrals, that's okay. A lot of knife guys do, and knife guys will at least understand why other knife guys do. Geometry, blade geometry. What is the deal with blade geometry? Why are we so crazy about blade geometry? Now, just because you're a knife nut that's crazy about blade geometry, that doesn't mean you don't like thicker knives. Well, let me explain what geometry is first. So blade geometry is just the cutting performance of the knife, how thick the spine is and how well it tapers down to the edge. So the thickness of the spine relative to the thinness behind the edge, and the transition between the spine to the edge. Now, there's different kinds of grinds, from hollows, convex, to flat grinds, but though, depending on what that knife is for, depends on what kind of geometry it should have. Now, some companies will just spit out blades, you know, not even caring about the geometry, and they don't even cut well. But companies that do care, and knife guys that know what they're looking at and have used knives many times, they understand that if I want a knife to do this, then this is the kind of geometry I want. If I want a knife to do, you know, batoning or being tough or hard use, then I need this kind of geometry. So we get lost in the sauce when it comes to geometry, because it does play a huge part. It also plays a huge part in how well your edge holds up, obviously how well it passes through materials, how ergonomic the knife can feel, because if it passes through materials, you know, it's not going to be as uncomfortable in the hand as if you are really fighting to get it through something. Now, that doesn't mean some of the best companies don't mess this up and don't put really thick geometry on knives that shouldn't have it. Also, sharpness. Sharpness. What's our big deal with sharpness? Now, of course, everybody knows, you know, oh, a sharp knife is better than a dull knife, right? We all understand that. But what is the big deal with some of these knife guys that love hair whittling edges? They want to split atoms in half with their edges. Why do they need it that sharp? We absolutely love it because it feels good having a knife, especially when you're dealing with some of these steels we were talking about earlier that are just high performance steels that take incredibly sharp edges, and then you can sharpen it, and the level of sharpness you are able to obtain is just mind-boggling, and you really see what a sharp knife feels like. And also, after you have used a real sharp knife, and a lot of you have not. If you're a knife guy, you might have, but most people that are not knife guys have never experienced what real sharp is. But knife guys do. And when you know what a real sharp is, you get addicted to that type of performance because it cuts so much better. It bites into material so much better. The way it cuts, the way it performs, just every detail about it makes you appreciate that more than when you were used to passing through materials and fighting to get it through, snagging on things, and the geometry just not even biting into the material when you start your cut, slipping off of your cuts. Like, we've all experienced this before, but when you've experienced a real sharp knife, it's difficult to go back. You look at other people's knives and you're like, man, how do you let this thing get this bad? Every knife guy can relate to stropping when it's not even necessary. It's got a nice, fresh, stupid sharp edge. You cut a piece of paper and then you pass it a couple times on the strop just in case. Budget knives. Why do real knife guys love budget knives? Now, if you're a guy that's been in the community for a long time and you're beyond budget knives and you don't buy budget knives anymore, of course you're still a knife guy, right? But we all understand when we were there, and a lot of people never leave it. A lot of people start in the budget knife category and they stay there forever. But all of us pretty much start there. And if you're the outlier that started with premium knives or custom knives, well, yeah, you're better than me, right? But most people start with budget knives. Now, with budget knives, what we look for is the best bang for our buck. We want the most out of our knives. We want to get the best handle materials, the best blade steel, the best geometry, the best acoustics, the best everything we've already talked about into a very affordable package. And that goes for everything. Everybody wants that, right? But when we're talking about knives, there are so many different companies. There's so many different companies doing something different well that there's a lot of options. So we love the hunt, we love the chase, we love finding that gem. And then sometimes you'll find that gem and it can hurt you because now you're seeking for a gem that can beat that or one that's just like that from the same company, and you might not get that same experience, at least from that company, for a while. But we love getting to know or feeling that we not only got our money's worth, but that this knife is worth more than or at least we feel like it's worth more than we've spent. And we feel like, man, how were they able to put this much effort, materials, and everything into this affordable package? We absolutely love getting budget knives that they shoot way above their pay grade. To name a few companies for an example, Civivi. Civivi does some amazing job. This knife right here, $65 for this knife. It has some of the best micarta you can expect on a knife. This micarta is something I would expect from a Riyadh. Now, the blade steel is 14C 28M blade steel. Great steel for the price. It has multiple forms of deployment, amazing action, ergonomics are great, and the steel is done well. So you're getting so much for your money. 10 years ago, this would have been a $200 knife at least. So yeah, it's amazing what some of these knife companies can do. Another company, for example, Kaiser. Kaiser's doing an incredible job. Kubi does an incredible job. There's a bunch of other ones that do an incredible job on some of these affordable knives that are just, they're batting way above their league. Now, us knife guys love the thought of our knives being made by the best materials on the planet. Some materials like carbon fiber are incredibly strong while staying incredibly lightweight, impact resistant, shock resistant. You wouldn't believe how incredibly strong carbon fiber is for how lightweight it is. You don't have to worry about corrosion. It's pretty much scratch resistant. It's just an incredible material that comes in all different colors, all different styles. There's different ways that it can be woven, and it is an incredible material. And it's the reason why they use it on supercars and space flights and things like that. A lot of the materials that are found on knives in many cases are found in NASA, which is crazy to think that these are the things that we want on our knives. We want the most indestructible, the craziest, the best materials on the planet on our pocket knives. Another material is micarta. We love micarta. One reason why we love micarta, now it's not as strong as carbon fiber, but it's incredibly strong, incredibly lightweight, impact resistant, but it's also grippier when it gets wet. So it's a great handle material for a knife where you don't want it to slip out of your hand. It comes in different colors. It's, in my opinion, I love the look of micarta, different finishes, and yeah, different styles. So it's an incredible material. Now we can go on and on, from bone to woolly mammoth tooth to everything you can imagine. As long, if it's a material that is insane, we love it on our knives. Let's talk about titanium. Why do we love titanium? We talked about the integrals earlier. What's the big deal with titanium? Why do knife guys love titanium? Why is Neeves Knives a titanium whore? Well, the reason why is because, one, titanium is impervious to the surroundings, to the environment. So it's not gonna rust. So that's one good thing. And knives, in many cases, are very susceptible to rusting. Of course, there's some that don't do that, and that's why we love those, but most do. So we love titanium because it does not rust. The next thing is it's very strong. It's a very strong material without being super heavy. So it winds up being about as strong as steel, but it's much, much lighter, and it's corrosion resistant. Now the next thing is it has really good memory. What does that mean? Well, with lock bars, they're basically a spring. It's a piece of the titanium bent. Well, that needs to hold its memory. So when you push it 1,000 times, it goes back to true. It goes back to where it's supposed to be. So it's really good at holding its shape, and it's a very strong, tough material. Also, you can anodize it so it turns colors when heated up, or with certain processes. So you can make it change colors. There's different patterns. So there's just a lot you can do with titanium. You can machine it. You can put micro milling. You can put inlays in it. You can obviously anodize it. You can polish it to a mirror polish and then anodize it. So many different ways to use titanium. Strong locks. What's the deal with knife guys and their locks? Why? And I think most people understand, like, of course we want a strong lock, right? But knife guys have taken it to another level. All knife guys love the triad lock. I've never heard anybody who says they didn't like the triad lock. Now, me personally, I'm not a big backlock fan. I don't like backlocks really, and a lot of other people don't. But we all respect the triad lock. Just because it is a backlock doesn't mean it's the same. One, in most cases, you can use a triad lock with one hand. But two, which is the most important thing, it is the strongest lock on the planet. It is a lock that is made for abuse. It's a lock you can actually abuse long term, and it will still come out the other side. It is an incredibly strong, resilient lock. So we love triad locks for that reason. If you're ever gonna want a folding knife that's gonna baton and axe and just do the hardest, most craziest stuff that you would never want to do to a knife, get a triad lock, because they will survive in most cases. It's very difficult to break a triad lock. You have to intentionally break a triad lock for them to fail. They're not gonna fail over any regular hard use. And that's why we love the triad lock. And that falls in the place of strong locks. There's lots of other strong locks, plenty of them, but none of them stand up, at least so far. Some of them have been just as strong, but not just as durable. Meaning if you put a weight on it and you weigh down the spine of the blade, how much can it hold? 600, 700 pounds, right? Because that's about what the triad lock holds. Now there's another lock like the shark lock that can hold that much weight, if not more. But when it comes to axing, batoning, and just hard use over a long period of time, the triad lock is unbeatable. It only gets more solid and stronger. You never experience blade play. You never experience lock rock. It just stays true. It stays tough. And we love that. So we love strength in knives, period. We all love a nice, super solid knife, something that's built well with good hardware, T8 hardware. That's another thing the knife guys love. We love T8 hardware, or at least T8s, T10s, because the bigger hardware, one, it's easier to take apart, it's gonna last longer, and it's more solid. But overall, it doesn't strip as easily as smaller hardware. So we like having tight tolerances, strong blades, strong locks, tough action, just tough all the way around. Now, but we don't want it to sacrifice the action, and this is why the triad lock can fail sometimes to people, because it's not the most exciting action in the world. So the next thing, action. What is up with action? All knife guys love knife action. Now that doesn't mean you like one particular action, because usually in most cases like me, we love all different action. We like the walk and talk of a slip joint. We like the sound of a frame lock and the snappiness of a detent. We like detent nubs, detent balls. We like button locks. We like compression. We like them all. We love them all. And they all have a different experience and a different feeling. Now, some people love the guillotine fall shut action. Why do they love it? Well, it's because it kind of shows the effort that was put in to get extremely smooth action, especially if it doesn't have any play, or only if it doesn't have any play. If it has play, then it's like, yeah, it's just loose. But if it's tight, it's rock solid, yet it falls under its own weight, it really shows you the level of tolerances they had to get to make that possible. Then some people love that slow hydraulic action where it consistently drops at the same speed all the way down. And you know, something like Shirogorov. Some people love the slow rolling action where you have to slow roll it with your thumb and you have to close it manually, you know, because it has that glassy, slick feel without feeling loose. Like the fall shut action, they can feel sometimes loose even though they're not. But with the slow roller, you're getting that tight feeling of tolerances while being very, very smooth, almost like it's running on oiled glass. So there's all different types of action, and most knife guys love them all. Some knife guys love a specific one. Either way, if you're a knife guy, there's a certain action that you love, if not all of them. Another thing knife guys all seem to love is innovation. Now, I know there's guys that are caught in the buck 110 realms, but for the most part, a lot of knife guys absolutely love innovation. We love seeing different locking mechanisms, different steels, different everything, and just watching these beautiful, amazing knives evolve into very unique knives. Like, you know, it's amazing when you can have a knife that almost nobody else on the planet has, but not even just that, you know, even if it is knives that a lot of people are going to eventually own, it winds up being new at one point, and we love seeing new features, new locking mechanisms, new everything. Most knife guys understand that we like to carry tip up with the blade facing this direction, and the reason why is so that the seam of the pocket can keep the knife closed. If it was facing this direction in the pocket and I jumped out of a truck and it happened to pop open, well, I don't want that to happen, right? You see where the blade's facing. Now, if it was facing the opposite way, tip down, and it opened up, same thing. Also, if it's facing in this direction and it opens up in my pocket and I go to put my hand in my pocket, you see what's about to happen. So, in order to prevent injury, you want to keep the knife facing this direction with the blade facing the seam of the pocket, so if it does open up, your pants will just close it right back up and it'll prevent injury. And most knife guys that have been carrying long enough have had something like that happen to them once or twice in the past. All right, guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Until next time, peace.
I can't do nothing with you. I can't do nothing with you.